So for him, his nails actually aren't that long in the back. The front ones are definitely a lot longer. I'm just going to trim the tips with some clippers just to get that excess off. His quicks are right there. That soft gooey part right here, even if you feel it with your nail, it's actually a little bit softer. That's quick. Then you can see that white ring around it where it gets a little darker. That's all your quick. That little nerve that's going to start to bleed. I don't want to make it bleed, so I'm just going to take the tips off, and then I'm going to use my Dremel, which is, to me, is a little easier to soften the edges. If you're very skilled, you can use a nail clipper to take off the edges, and you can still make it look like it's fairly dremeled. Now, when I'm doing this side, he has this bad foot here. I'm actually going to be careful on how I hold it. Yeah, I'm not squeezing too hard. He's not bad for his nails, so this should be a little easier on me, that soft part. I'm just holding the tips. Actually, where he has more fur is where I'm holding his nails. I don't want to cause more irritation. He is going to wiggle a little bit. That's completely normal. It's probably not the most comfortable thing. That's quick. I'm just holding where the fur is at. I don't want to squeeze where all that raw hair, like all this raw skin, I don't want to squeeze or put a lot of pressure on it or rub it in any way that's going to irritate him. So I'm just holding where he has, right here on his toes, where he has a little more fur, and around the outer areas is where I'm usually putting my fingers and watching where my hands are. Especially because it's quite raw. He's pretty good about it. Obviously, mom's been putting ointment and things like that. So it's not as open as it was before. On this side, I can actually put a good grip on it. I'm just going to take the tips. So if I wanted to, I can get the edges with the nail clipper and start making it look dremeled. But for this, I'm just going to take off just the excess. His quicks are quite long. I'm looking for that dew claw. Okay, I can see the quicks on all the nails, so now I'm just going to go back in with my Dremel and make sure I round out the edges. And I just check to make sure it's smooth. If you have a dog, I don't know, I'm going to sink in a little bit. There you go. So he's losing balance, so I'm just going to use my own self to support him a little bit. I stick my arm right in between. Like I was saying, though, if you have a dog that has children at home, maybe their couple's a little older, you want to make sure that these nails are nice and soft. So I'm just touching and feeling to make sure I got it all. So the key here is if I lift his leg too high, he's going to lean more into me. But this is not a natural position for dogs. You can see his hock is really high up. What I usually say is knee and hock should be about the same height, no further than that. If I need to see the nail, then I'd rather bend this part of the toes. So I'm going to squeeze him to my body and keep the foot nice and low. That's going to give him more balance so that I can Dremel his nails. And he doesn't have any back dew claws. If they do have back dew claws, then I would obviously Dremel those. So for this one, I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier. I'm not going to grab super hard. And I'm just going to keep my fingers on the edges where he has a little more coat so I don't irritate it. So making him slightly comfortable. We still have to get the nails done. The dew claws is the hardest one to get. Okay, that's fairly soft. This one's cracking. Stop. Okay, there's one more at the end of this one. So I'm just taking all those edges off. I feel that it's nice and smooth. So, right here at the end, you can see that's the quick. You have this nice white ring around it. I want it to look more like this. I don't want to overly expose the nail where if he was to dig, it would quick. But I want to make sure that the edges are soft. If I was to look from the front with these nails, this is the best way to see it, in my opinion. Right here, we have this nice round tip. When you have a nail like this, you see how it's like kind of straight, blunt. We want to soften it. Even here, you could probably take it down just a little bit, but if I was to do that, I have that risk of the quick being overly exposed. And then when he puts it down or he was to run or anything on the cement outside, more than likely that quick's going to be so exposed that it will open and then it'll start bleeding. So I want to make sure that I'm rounding it just enough that it wants to push itself back, but not too much where I'm putting him at risk of bleeding when he gets home. So all I do is I'm going to take that bottom part off where it's nice and smooth. Now I have these 3 corners, and then I just slowly take those corners off. Flattening that top edge that we see. I feel to make sure it's not too much. He has like a little broken off piece here. That's what I'm trying to get off. I don't want to leave that because if it gets caught on some things, I have the same problem, right? I'll have him quicked. And now when I look at that same nail from the side, it has a nice smooth round edge. The nails are fairly off the floor. That's a good telltale sign. So if I could go a little bit shorter, but like you said, I could put my nails right underneath those nails. And this one, you could tell the nails on this side are a lot longer than this side, and that's typical because he probably hasn't been putting a lot of pressure. It's probably been sore and raw and everything. That's another reason to check your dogs. And now from here, we're gonna go to the bath.